All right, I am seeing more and more people join. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody that is joining. I love doing these. I see more and more people come from all kinds of areas within the world, and I absolutely love that. It is such a pleasure, as always, to see so many people joining us. Thank you so much. So, as we start to have more people log in, I just wanted to take the time to thank each and every one of you for joining us today to learn a little bit more about this program and a little bit more about what we have to offer for each of you here and what we can do for children with autism. And I'll go into more detail about who I am, but thank you guys so much for joining this evening or this morning, wherever you guys may be coming from. Thank you so much. And I know that all of you have a lot of questions about autism, about how you can help your son, your daughter, a friend of yours, anyone like that. We are more than happy to help you guys. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get going, and we can get this started. So let me go ahead and make me a little bit smaller. And with me tonight is the amazing Jen, who is going to be answering any kind of questions you may have, as well as providing any kind of links that are provided as well. And this is a story about autism, as well as being a question and answer. So we have a few prizes at the end of this presentation, so make sure you hold on tight. And with that being said, we'll go ahead and get started. And I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Armando Bernal. I'm a board certified behavior analyst. I am also diagnosed with autism. I was diagnosed at age 3. Doctors told my mother that I might as well learn sign language because I was never going to be able to speak. And despite what the doctor said, my mother took that diagnosis, went immediately to the public library, learned all she could about autism, and was able to better support me as well as my growth. I've been a special education teacher, a behavior analyst, a clinical director, a podcast host, and now I own and operate a in-home ABA facility in Houston, Texas. So if anyone isn't from Houston, please say hello. But for everyone else, I am in Texas, the southern area of the United States, and it is such a pleasure to be with you guys today. So we'll keep going. I'll go ahead and play this video for you to learn a little bit more about Michelle and Champions for Our Children.
I remember when I got pregnant with my daughter, I felt so grateful and so blessed. I mean, my life up until that point had been pretty rocky. I'd had a lot of bumps and bruises along the way, and I finally thought that I was turning a corner and God was blessing me with this beautiful gift of a child. And I just, yes, finally something was going in my way. And then when she was born, she was just absolutely perfect. I had all of these dreams and expectations for her. I thought of all the things that I thought she was going to do. Right after her first birthday, I started to notice her behavior change. She went from, saying Matt. She was obsessed with Dora the Explorer, Mama, Dada. She was saying it all. Good girl, say Matt. Hit all of her milestones up to that point. She walked at 1. She was eating solid. She just, she looked really good. And then I just remember her, it felt almost overnight or very quickly where her demeanor just changed. She went from this super happy baby to crying and tantruming, just frustrated all the time. And I remember saying to my mom one day during one of these tantrums, like, where did my happy baby go? But I didn't think anything past it. I think I was kind of not ready to fathom that something could be off, even though maybe the telltale signs were there. Next. Gotta keep track. Started to lose the words that she had gained. She wasn't saying mama anymore. She wasn't saying map. She just seemed really disconnected from us. Instead of playing with her toys, she would take them, dump them all out of her toy box, and just start twisting them around her hands aimlessly with no intended purpose. really kind of in denial about it. And then I remember one day we were in the middle of a store, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, she just like started like screaming and yelling like somebody had slapped her. I don't even know what the problem was, and I was so mortified. I didn't even know what to do. I was so scared. I literally just left the half full cart in the store, picked her up, and just ran out of there. Never went to that store again. I just didn't even know what to think. And that was probably the first time it really kind of stung for me that maybe something is wrong. They diagnosed her. They didn't diagnose her right away. They said that, she was too young for a diagnosis. I didn't even know what they meant when they said that. I was like, diagnosed with what? I just had no idea what they were talking about. And then they said, we'll come back in if you're not seeing progress. I said, okay, and a couple months later, I'm watching these speech therapists play with her on the floor. I'm not seeing any progress, and felt like she was getting a little worse. And then we went for our 2-year-old wellness visit, and the doctor said that she was behind if she wasn't using 20 words with intent. And that was probably just the knife to my heart. At that point, I really couldn't deny that something was up with her anymore. So then I called the county back in, and she was diagnosed on the spectrum. And I remember that day, and it was worst days of my life. It was my darkest hour. I could easily say that as a mother, as a woman, as just a human being. It was probably one of the hardest times I had ever gone through. And I remember just being so happy with God, so thankful to being so pleased at doing this to her and wrecking this beautiful gift He had given me. And for a while there, I struggled. I struggled to figure out what this meant, or what we were going to do, or how this was going to define her. All those dreams I had for her future were just completely shattered, and I just had no idea what was going to happen next. And I went from just hopeful to just complete blank when I thought about the future. One night I was thinking, I'm going to die one day, and who's going to care for her like me? And something about that thought just snapped me out of my depression and my anger and my fear, and said, listen, we got to get to work here. I promised that when she was born, I was going to be the best mother I could be to her. And that promise, it hasn't changed. In fact, she needs me more now than ever, not less. She needs me now more than ever. And I didn't know at the time what we were capable of, or what having those changes, that mindset shift for me was going to do. But I wanted to know that at the end of every night, I could look myself in the mirror with confidence and say, did you do everything you could for yourself to give her the best possible life? And if the answer was yes, then that was a good day. And I wanted the answer to be yes, 100%. And no matter where the cards fell, I know I could leave this earth saying I gave her everything I had, no regrets. And as I've navigated this world with her and walked away that day after having that thought, I really just grabbed the bull by the horns. I became her fiercest advocate. I'm not a special education master's degree teacher. I never had any formal training in ABA, but I knew that I was going to learn whatever I needed to learn to be really strong for her. And Juliana lost all of her language. She was verbal when she was diagnosed. We taught her sign language. Then she went from sign language to word approximations. Then she started to speak. She went from the most restrictive preschool environment. She was in 614, most restrictive preschool, special education preschool environment you could be in. To now where she is almost 8 years old. She's in the second grade class in a gen ed school, integrated class with typical peers. She speaks beautifully now. She has a personality. She has conversation skills. There's still things that we need to work on, but for the most part, her future went from black to now having possibilities. And none of that could have happened had I not kind of gotten out of my own way and really hit the ground running and started to take action for her. And I can't say that I can do that for every parent that coach, but what I can tell them is I will have them feeling like I did, looking myself in the mirror, you looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, I was everything I could be for her today. I have no regrets. And whatever happens, it happens. It's really for us as parents to know we fulfilled the duty that we promised when we had these children, which was the best versions of ourselves to live, to raise these children. I've helped now hundreds of mothers, coach them one-on-one to do the same things I did, to help them to be strong, to help them to craft plans where we're seeing constant progress. This is what I want to do. I want to give you the chance that your Nana's had. I want to give you every opportunity to give your child that house.
Dear Canada, today is Monday, a day full of happiness. Thank you,
That was such a good video. I really enjoy that video every time we do it. So, and that helps us understand exactly why all of us are here tonight, right? Why are we here? Why are we doing what we're doing? And it is helping children start to communicate with you. It's helping your children start to communicate with you, whether that's through just a simple providing their wants and needs, or whether it's going into conversation, and whether it's for some of the patients I've had, getting them to learn how to say good night, I love you, thank you, mom, thank you, dad, all of these things. Being able to be as independent as possible. There are so many times that children with autism are having their parents feed them up until much later than they should, right? Having parents feed their child at 5, 7, 10, 12, 15 years old because they're not independent enough to start feeding themselves. And it's also being able to have friends and engage with other children as well, right? There are some times that the kids that we're seeing will request, I want friends, or I want to play, and they don't want to play with adults. They don't want to play with people that are older than them. They want to play with peers. They want to play with kids their age. And being able to better support their growth in that aspect, growth in their social skills, is really going to help support their ability to communicate as well as be independent. And you're wanting communication to click, right? It's going from that sudden nonverbal attitude to then becoming more verbal, where they're able to provide their wants and needs to you, and seeing these kind of behaviors that you are familiar with eventually disappear, and be able to really provide a sense of independence that you thought your child may never have. It's your ability to stop worrying about their future, and it's your reassurance for yourself as the parent that you're doing the right thing, that you're being able to support your child, but still allowing them to grow and become independent enough. The question that needs to come up is, what is going to happen to your child when you're gone, right? And that may be a little morbid, but it's significant to understand that you're not going to be around forever. And it's so important for your child to be able to be taken care of and to be independent. So that way they are able to manage their own life, just like everyone else is able to. You want to stop feeling like every bad thing in the world is going to happen to them. And it's true, as parents, it's significant to understand that a child may fall, a child may make the wrong decision or a poor mistake, but that's just part of growing up. And that's just a part of having a life, and understanding that there is a sense of clarity and there is a sense of importance for a child to make their own mistakes, because they learn from that. And then they start to learn how to be more independent and how to pick themselves up when they fall. And finally, you want to stop feeling like you can't live your life. It's very significant to me. I have a lot of parents I work with, and they are very much living for their child, is that they are not able to go out to the movies or have dates or have dinners or whatever it may be, and they are now just surrounding themselves amongst their child and just not living a life for themselves anymore. You do not grow to the age that you all of you are to then no longer have a life and no longer be able to do things that matter to you, do things that are enjoyable to you. And if we start focusing more on our children rather than our own mental health, rather than our own life balance, then that's where things can start to crumble. And that's what we're here to avoid. So there are three big things that are significant to a child's growth that we try to work on here at Champions for Our Children. We work on potty training. We work on making problem behaviors at 0 or as close to 0 as possible and can sit to a 10, as well as communication. These are all different tactics that myself, including other board certified behavior analysts, are able to accomplish, that we are able to better support you through that kind of growth to see your child reach that level of independence. This is a video from me that I did with Michelle some months ago, where I talked about my own journey with autism. Again, for those that joined later, I am diagnosed with autism. I was diagnosed at age 3. I did not speak. I was nonverbal. And over time, through the support of my family, through the support of those around me, I was able to reach a life that I personally can be very proud of.
Okay, so I want to know all about you. So I want you to tell us what you were like. How old are you? Where you're from? Tell us like about you as a baby, like what your parents told you, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So I am 28 years old. I am a board certified behavior analyst, but I was also diagnosed at a young age, at the age of 3. It's funny. So one thing my parents always told me was that the doctors at the time of the diagnosis told them that I might as well learn sign language because I'm never going to learn how to speak. And now I host a podcast. So it's very ironic in that situation. And growing up, things were very difficult behavior wise and social wise. I still suffer from some things today. It's just in a more positive light, and I have more self-regulation than I did before. I jokingly say, if you ask me, I was a perfect child. My parents probably don't think so. So with my mother and my family, we grew up very poor. We didn't have a lot of support, or a lot of like ABA therapy was not something we took part in because we could not afford it. And so my mother went to libraries to find new things about autism or different kinds of interventions. At the time, this was in the 90s. It was still, as looking back now on like the history of ABA and all the stuff I know about autism now, it was very difficult to find information back in the 90s, or at least more diagnosis than what is currently present. If you look today, the CDC says that 1 in 44 kids are diagnosed with autism. That was not the case in the 90s. And there wasn't any Facebook, any kind of social media. And so I grew up very alone. I did not have the social aspects I did now. I didn't know anyone else with autism. It was just me, my diagnosis, my family, and people I met through middle school, elementary, and high school. A lot of it, as I spoken to you about, was a lot of masking. It was like, okay, let me fit in. It was all about fitting in, right? And not being able to be someone different. Because if you had a diagnosis like me, or if you were different, everyone just looked at that. Okay, that was a way of like really getting at somebody. I was in the life skills class. I was nonverbal for some time. With my family. And I still vaguely remember this as well. I didn't really speak a whole lot. I would say sounds for words. So I would say like bzz, bzz, for like a bee or a bug, or I would say choo choo. And this is at 4 or 5 years old. And, typically kids speak at that time. And so that was my form of communication, and through speech therapy, through interventions my family made, and, a couple bumps on the head. As my mom says, during that time, I was able to learn a little bit more. But I really chalk up a lot of who I am today to my family, to the friends that supported me, and my very loving fiance who is still deals with everything I do now. And I have positives. I have cute quirks, as they would say, like hand flapping is cute for her because she's like, oh, that's how I know you got a good Christmas gift, or that's how I know I got you a good gift, things like that. But there's still some things I still struggle with. If things get really difficult, if there's social changes, or if there's changes in my schedule, I try to be as flexible as possible, but sometimes I still I had self-injurious behavior growing up, and I still do at times. It's still more self-regulated, but if I didn't learn something fast, I would hit myself with a textbook, or I'd hit myself with something just to feel better about things. And that's the part of my autism that I don't speak a lot about, but I wanted to try and be more open and more transparent that I still have those difficulties, but thankfully, because of the support system I've been given, it's easier to cope with because I have others to look at for social involvement and social cues.
So looking back at your parents, because this is a lot of what my program focuses on, is that how a parent believes, what parents believe about the diagnosis can make or break the outcome that the child could potentially have. I know that's what I felt. I felt a shift in me when my thoughts changed about my daughter's future. So looking back on your parents, we had your mom who was very gung-ho, ready to do anything she needed to support you, and your dad was kind of like struggling with it. How did they kind of come together to, I guess, bridge the gap, so to speak, to get you what you needed?
I think it was finally just them realizing that, or at least my father at least realizing that there's something that wasn't going to be fixed. Why is he not talking? Why is he not relating to others? Why is he not interacting with kids at that time? And I mean, I guess it would really probably hit him when I got into the life skills program, and it was finally like he needs some help. And so I remember I would be more in the life skills where I was with these kids, and I have pictures in the yearbook where I was with it would say life skills, or I would be with other, like my best friend was in a wheelchair, and they also had like more severe autism at that time. And so I would be there, and finally my father came around, and it was more of just getting us to relate more. We didn't really get along as well. Looking back, I don't think it was like, oh, we didn't like each other. It was more just like a misunderstanding of what each other were looking for. And I relate some of it to just a lack of understanding overall. Like my father didn't graduate from high school. I think he from what I remember, he dropped out in 7th grade. Wasn't big and educated, very brilliant, very intelligent person, just did not do well in the school system. And so it was just a lack of knowledge that really pushed it. Thankfully, like I said, the support systems do make and break. And I mean, that's something that's really great about your program, is that and the guests that I speak to on my podcast, that it really changes the outcome depending on if parents are involved, if friends are involved, if you have some kind of person to relate to that can support you. I don't think I would be where I am today if it wasn't for people pushing me to do what I've done now.
So let's talk about some general. I always say there's 3 foundational skills every child on the spectrum needs to progress. Actually, it's like almost 3.5. But number 1 was potty training. Number 2 is have some form of communication, and number 3 is kind of like no problem behavior, minimal problem behavior, and/or can sit and attend. When would you say you had gotten those 3 foundational skills?
I would say that I was very fortunate because that spectrum, right? It's such a wide spectrum. So I'm obviously on the very far end of that. But the communication didn't come until 5 or 6. I wasn't fully at a point where I was very functionally with communication until probably 4th or 5th grade. So that would be like 9 years old, 10 years old.
Wow.
I didn't test out of speech therapy until that time. I mean, I still have some minor issues, but nothing that really like gets in my way of communication. With potty training, like you said, I think that was a bit later as well. Probably around 4 years old, and the typical is like 2. And what I tell my parents now, putting my BCBA head on, is that the earlier you do it, the better, right? Because at some point a child realizes it's so much more convenient to just go on yourself than having to go to the bathroom. And so that, I mean, that's the same concept with that is thankfully, even though I was able to get out of it. But I mean, some parents aren't that lucky. Some parents are still having to deal with that. I have on my caseload currently, I have a 9-year-old that is still potty trained, or a 10-year-old is still potty trained. You don't imagine like the amount of work that a family puts into it, like when you're growing up, and then you get older, and you're like, what were you doing? Why were you doing this? I'm sure all of the parents on right now, like you can talk about that, and it's just like you talk about your kids, and you talk about, this didn't work. How do I fix it? Or what do I do next? Okay, this strategy didn't work. What's the next step?
As a mother that pushes her child a lot and really puts a lot of effort in, and for all the moms in here, I am telling them to do the things that I did. I'm trying not to be the emotional host. I can't help to think that I hope that one day she does understand that I was trying to hurt her. I was trying to help her. this gives all of us moms, because we talk about this a lot, like we talk about using iPads for reinforcements, and a lot of parents are against taking it away because they feel so bad. And there's just something so good in hearing this as a mother, that you realized what they sacrificed to help you be stronger, you know? Not a dry eye in the house, I'm sure, because we're all in the same. So I appreciate you sharing that. One of the things I did want to think about here is, like, when do you feel like, what do you think? Do you think the work that the mom and dad and your sister did at home was the major catalyst for all the progress you had? Or do you think it was these schools they were putting you in? What do you think was the made the biggest movement for you progress wise?
It was my parents. It was the parents, and it was my parents, because like, sure, the school was helping, but it was also still a public school. I didn't go to a private school. I didn't go to a charter school. Everything that I am, I know it's because of the parents. I mean, it's because of you guys, everyone on this call. Like, your kids will love you forever, and it's everything that you guys are doing for them. Every intervention, everything that you're like, oh, this isn't working, but at least you tried it, and at least you gave it a shot. There's some parents that may not do that, and I mean, just being on this call today, it's such an honor and a blessing to talk to each of you. You're what's making a difference. It's 100% true, you guys. It's you as parents that make this difference. It's you that really pushes your child to determine what their next steps are, right? And hopefully the next step would be our program. Hopefully the next step is Champions for Our Children, where we provide the personalized strategies, where we are able to provide 100% success rate within potty training. We reconnect you to your child to allow them to know what you are asking them to do, and more importantly, for you to know what they are wanting to do, giving them that self-advocacy that any parent would want them to have. Every program we provide is individualized to your needs. And at the end of this call, you'll start to see that we answer individualized questions that matter to you and your family, rather than a very vague notion of what to do in certain situations that may or may not apply to you. But we start at this root level to focus on those behaviors. More importantly, we also get your child back on track. A lot of times with problem behaviors, we have that a child will learn X amount of years that they can do a certain behavior. And what we do instead is replace that behavior with something that is far more appropriate, that can't get in the way of what you're trying to teach your child. It's significant to understand that we learn from trial and error, and the only true failure is quitting. The only true failure is saying, I can't do this anymore, I quit, and my child is just going to learn on their own eventually. And that's never the case. They need that support. They need that support from you as that family member to show them exactly what needs to get done. You no longer have to worry about autism every minute of every day if you join this program, because if you have any questions, if you have any concerns, you can immediately turn to one of the BCBAs, the speech therapist, Michelle, to really better support you. And more importantly, you get that independence back. You get that ability to provide more support for you and your family, so that way your child knows that you're there for them, that you are their biggest support system. And again, as I've stressed over and over again, there is simply nothing more that you can do but be a support system, and your kids are going to thank you for that. So what we offer is a 3-month coaching program with guaranteed results. We go over potty training, communication, stopping problem behaviors, and also social skills. We also work on picky eater protocols, mindset training, stopping any kind of elopement. Elopement, for those that may not know, is running away. If your child ever runs away into the street, into another area, into a store that you're not in, all of these things we're able to work on. We build these out every month, and there is a lifetime access to the web portal if you join, and being able to take care of these courses within the 30 days that you take your time in. So in addition to these 3 months of getting this lifetime access, you also are given 3 to 4 weekly live group coaching calls to learn from the experts. These experts, including Michelle, who's an autism mom, the creator of this program. The BCBAs, myself, Melissa, Stacy, and Julie, learning how to have individualized plans to better support your child. Here's pictures of Melissa and Stacy. as well as a mindset coach, where we have Risa Hosbrook and Holly Pendergrass to really better support your place and your life balance, to really have your child understand and have you understand exactly what it is you can do to really better support them. All questions are always going to be answered. And if something isn't reached on a call, you're more than welcome to, and as we'll discuss it, into a Facebook group that we have, where you can have all of all of your questions answered. In addition, you get a monthly specialist call with a registered dietitian as well as a speech language pathologist. I actually work with the speech language pathologist. She did one of the classes that we had and then eventually joined us in our program, and now is helping so many parents in really all over the nation, all over the world, with any questions that they have about speech language for their child with autism. We also have that private Facebook community that I mentioned that you're able to join. So if a question is not answered for whatever reason, you're more than welcome to add that question into the Facebook group and then get answered. Or you can email Michelle directly. Again, when you're with us, we want to treat you as individualized, as family members as we can, and have you understand that we want to do everything possible for you and your family. There is an action-backed guarantee. So if after 90 days that you pay this money, right, and you don't get the results that you came for, you can stay in the program or you can get your money back. I guarantee, I've been doing this for a couple of years now, and I guarantee that you'll get the support you need. I do my very best to provide as much support as possible to you in order to make sure that you feel supported, that you feel like you have the confidence to take care of all of this. So for tonight only, right? If you're able to join tonight, you'll get another private session with me free of charge. With Michelle, it's a 20-minute call, or with me, it's a 20-minute call. You can decide which one you want to do. And both ways, though, is when you're able to join us tonight. And Jen will be posting the link in the chat for you guys in order to respond. And in addition, if you join tonight, rather than the 3 months that I was discussing, you get 5 months of this. So all of these things, you get the private session, the Facebook group, the monthly specialist calls, the weekly calls, and the lifetime study access call. All of that comes in if you are able to join tonight. That's 60 plus calls that can change your life. And it's 60 plus calls that allow you to better support everything that we have to offer here for you. That's $500 off for the third bonus that we're offering. If you're able to join by midnight, we are willing to help support you in those 5 months and have $500 off of that program, right? And at the end of this, there will be a question and answer where you can get a taste and an understanding of what the calls look like, right? And being able to really support your family as best as possible. So the investment tonight is $24.97, but we will break it down into payments. So it's either 3 payments of $878, or it's going to be 4 payments of $660. So normally it's almost $3,000, but with $500 off, it comes down to $16 a day, and it's 70 plus calls that can change your life and really better support your child through all of their questions and all of their concerns that they may have. But again, all of these bonuses have to be reached out by midnight tonight in order to better support everything that is going on with your family. There's a word here, though, and a phrase: a unicorn syndrome. Things like Julianne is different than my child. Armando is different than my child, right? My child has severe autism. As a board certified behavior analyst, I can tell you that regardless of the behavior, we're able to support you, right? We're able to provide the necessary tools that are needed in order for you to better understand those expectations. Understanding that your child is not broken, that this doesn't work just for one kid, but it works for all kids. Applied behavior analysis is the science that we use, and it is behavioral science. It is all around us. And being able to understand and better support one another through that science really helps the child overall. This unicorn syndrome is a self-preservation state. Staying here is never going to put you in harm's way, and it's never going to crush your hopes and dreams, right? But what really does do that is if we're not able to support them in their time of need, when they're feeling like things are struggling, things are frustrating. But what we do is try to better support them and understand that despite this idea that we can't risk trying and failing, that you won't survive it, that you will survive it. We have a tribe of individuals that are able to be a part of this. We have a tribe of individuals that have always been able to support one another. And you'll see even in this conversation where it's very open and honest and transparent, where you may have your questions and I'm answering it very openly. And the next person may have that question, and the next and the next. So for joining me tonight, again, all of these bonuses will end tonight at midnight. Jen is posting the link in the comments here for you guys to join. Click on that link and enroll, and let me see you at other meetings. And this is a video that just goes over what other parents have said in the past that we've worked with.
First one I wanted to ask is, why did you decide to work with me?
I got to a point where I was really overwhelmed, and I knew there was more I could do for Joseph, and I knew there was more room for him to learn.
We had just moved to our new location when we started working together, and you popped up and came into my life at the right time, because it really, even though I've moved so many times as a military spouse, I had never moved with a special needs child.
I would say our biggest struggles were I just didn't feel like we had exposure to the services that I was wanting from him. We didn't have any local ABA. He would talk with us, but not really with other people.
And I've been looking for something like this. You know, my son's 5 since he was diagnosed just before he turned 3. And you kind of feel like you're left out on your own in the cold.
So what did you enjoy most about working with me?
I cannot just pick one thing. From the start till now, I love everything. Your motivation, how you break things down, how you make it seem easy. And not just seem easy, but you give the tools and the steps of making it easy, breaking it down.
Well, you helped me pinpoint what my anxiety were, the steps I needed to take, and made it less abstract than some other people had made it for me.
I mean, it was everything from, when you talk to your insurance, you ask them this, you speak to this type of person, and it just started taking that load off where I could see the accomplishments and I could see through the fog. And
So I kind of just wanted to ask you, if someone just found out that their child was diagnosed with autism, how important is it for them to have someone supporting them through this process? For example, I'm a parent of a child who's nonverbal, who's now in an integrated 2nd grade class with neurotypical children. Someone I've had experience to advise, so I can help advise somebody through this, of what options are available for their child, assisting them in finding the right treatment. Is that something that you agree with?
Oh, absolutely. Because I just talked to Mom the other day. She had a 2-year-old just been diagnosed, and she didn't know where to start. You can't do it all yourself.
Yeah.
Your mom will get completely stressed out. That does not.
All right. So now, I guess, where are you now? You and your child, now that you joined the program.
so we were not potty trained. We were not talking much. We were not, he wasn't able, if I told him to go get something, do any of those things. And now he will, he's totally potty trained. We go everywhere, just in our undies. We don't have to worry about that. He is speaking way more. He's gained so much independence, his ability to do things. And I can tell him, you can go into your room and get your shoes or get your socks, and just seeing that he understands what I'm saying and he knows, he goes, does it. He's so happy with himself.
When I called you at first, I was really overwhelmed. But now, probably, I would say I never get overwhelmed, but I'm able to retrace.
You helped me formulate the confidence in myself to realize I'm ready and to really go for it. And I would not have potty trained it. And he's now potty trained, doing it on his own, taking himself. And it went so much better than I ever could have imagined.
Would you recommend our program to any moms or dads that are going through this right now?
Absolutely. Hands down, of everything we've done, this has been the best thing. This was the most support, and all the way around.
Any day, I will recommend you. I will recommend you. Whoever has a child on the spectrum.
Yes, I don't want to stop.
Well, we're friends for life. Don't you worry. Sisters for life.
If you have a chance to do this, I definitely recommend it. It has made all the difference.
I will recommend Michelle because she will walk you through. And it's not just about your kids, it's about you too.
Just having so much support in the different areas. It wasn't one little thing, it was like a full spectrum of support.
And you're still helping me work through how I can view everything better, and how I can improve, and how I can improve myself, so that can improve outcomes for my kiddos.
Whoever is out there that's confused, thinking there's no help and they are all by themselves, no, you're not all by yourself. Get with Michelle.
Absolutely, hands down, I would recommend this a million times.
I always enjoy that the most because I work with a lot of those parents, and it's always nice to hear that they found really positive things from what we're doing here. Well, with that being said, Jen, I believe it is Q&A time. It is a joy to be with each of you tonight, and now I get to do my favorite thing, which is to answer a lot of questions as well. Oh my goodness. So yeah, sorry, I was looking at the questions right now. So the way I do this, I try to do it through the chat, but I also do it through the questions that are here. So Jen is going to be posting that link for you guys to follow. If anyone's interested as well, I always post my social media content. So my company is called Autism International. So if you guys would like to follow me, it's at AutismINTL on Instagram. And yeah, I'm looking forward to helping you guys out. So with that being said, if you have questions or comments, you can either put them in the Q&A and I'll answer them, or you can raise your hand and I will call on you guys. So with that being said, we'll get started. We'll start with Yashika Walker. Hello, we are in Katy, right outside of Houston. Our kiddo was recently diagnosed and she has been regressing significantly. This is right on time. I thank you for sharing your knowledge to help others. It is a blessing. Yashika, I don't know if you heard, but I'm also in Houston. So it is really cool to hear from you. And I am looking forward to helping you, and maybe we can get in touch and you could help and maybe check out my company where we do in-home ABA. So Yashika, what can I help you with? Or maybe I have to find you. Maybe I have to ask you to do that too. Let me see. Shika, there we go. Allow a talk. Let's see if you want to say anything. If you don't, that's okay too. You can just keep your mic off, but I thought that would help you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, hi Yashika.
Hi. Again, thank you so much. This was like right on time. My family and I are originally from Chicago, Illinois. We moved to the Houston area a little over a year ago. Right after the move, our daughter started exhibiting like really aggressive behaviors. It was a lot of transition, so we just kind of chalked it up as that. But as time continued on, we just noticed significant regression in her developmentally. She became less verbal. She became more and more aggressive, biting, scratching, hitting. Also she has like an increased oral fixation. I was finally able to get her medically diagnosed with autism literally as of a couple weeks ago. Took her to a neurologist. We just recently did an EEG test. We're doing genetic testing. The EEG test came back abnormal. It was a lot to receive. The neurologist basically stated that she has some kind of delay in her cerebral function. And so she kind of said that was like separate from the autism itself. So now we have to get an MRI and everything. So I guess we're like kind of right at that stage where we're trying to get take the right necessary steps.
Yeah.
So I guess whatever suggestions or advice you would give us, just because she has a really, really lack of focus, the aggressive behaviors and everything makes it extremely difficult for us to even like interact with her on a day-to-day.
How old is she again?
She's 4. She'll actually be 5 in October.
Got it. Okay. So number one, do you have Instagram?
I do.
Okay. Go ahead and follow me and I can message you offline with that as well. And I can get in contact with you. I normally, I let people follow me, but it's also, you're in the same city as me. So, and I can help you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. So go ahead and do that. Some things to keep in mind, right? It's just some things that I tell everyone on here is that the reason why somebody does something is never random. Now, granted, your child has a medical disorder in addition to the autism diagnosis. That doesn't necessarily change a whole lot because behavior is actions and every action has a purpose, right? So the EEG and the medical reasoning may have something to do with the decision she makes, but it doesn't change the fact of why she's doing what she's doing, right? So it's important for you to determine what was the purpose of the action that she gave. And it helps you to understand that there are 4 reasons why anybody does anything. And there's escape, I want something, attention, or it feels good. And when you look at her actions, despite what it is, aggression, property destruction, yelling, anything like that, one of those 4 reasons is why she did it. And then that lets you move to the next step of determining, how do I resolve this in the future?
Right.
That makes sense?
No, that made a lot of sense. That really did. Thank you so much. What was your IG?
Yeah, it's at Autism INTL. It's in the chat. It's in hosts and panels. That's why. That's why you guys. Let me put it right now. There you go. You should be able to see it now.
I just found you and I just followed you. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. I'll message you after all of this is over. Okay.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Very, very cool. But yeah, so that's one thing for all of you guys to remember, is that everyone does everything for 4 reasons, and that includes you and I. If I am saying something with my hands, it may be because it's a sensory thing. It helps make me feel good. If I get a phone call and it's spam and I hang up on it, why did I press the hang up button? Because I'm trying to escape the phone call. And those kind of activities are again, part of those 4 reasons there. So Charity, how can I help you? Oh, I keep forgetting. I have to allow you to talk. There you go, Charity.
Hi, Armando. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. I am a previous enrollee in the program. I did the potty training course with my son, Caden. And so Michelle and everyone helped my son to get potty trained in like under 2 weeks. It was absolutely ridiculous. He was 5 and a half at the time. Yes. And he's 7 now. And so I highly, highly, highly recommend anybody on here definitely invest in the program. It is absolutely worth it.
Love it.
But of course, as children progress, milestones change. We're at the stage right now where I have started public school with him, and he went part-time to kindergarten last year. And this year we're working on 1st grade. However, when we're in the IEPs, the school is so adamant about him being in an ALE classroom where it has it's an ALE teacher. So I guess it would be similar to life skills, where there's only 7 other students in there, and he's not having exposure to neurotypical peers. And I really want to advocate for him to be in the classroom. And I'm getting a lot of pushback because they're saying, well, he needs to be able to, and he can attend and he can sit, but they're like, he needs to be able to not distract others and other things like that. And I just feel like they're trying to press earning himself into general ed. I don't feel like it's fair. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, one of the first things is I used to be a special ed teacher. And so one of the things you have to look at as well is what kind of accommodations, what kind of modifications are they offering him? And is it being effective, the type of things that he has? And if it's not, then going back to his ARD meeting could be beneficial to look at more kinds of interventions that could better support him, right?
Okay.
So if he's not able to stay in his seat, it's possible maybe the seat's the issue, right? And that could be easily turned into maybe he doesn't sit in a regular chair, or maybe he sits in a wobble stool. Or maybe he has a pincushion type of pillow that they put under his seat that gives a sensory feeling that he may be lacking, right? So it's really important for you to just look at the different kind of accommodations and also have that conversation, to not be combative, but instead start to say, hey, what kind of accommodations are we using? Are they working? Where's the data that says it is working, it's not working? And ideally, in a perfect world, the teacher or the school organization should have a lot of graphs or data that represents whether or not these accommodations have been used. And if they don't, that's a bit concerning and something that you may want them to talk to you about. So that way they can start taking data and see if it's actually effective to use as an intervention.
Got it. Okay. So you said, don't be combative. I won't. I just really want to, I don't want to overwhelm my child, but at the same time, I know his capabilities too. So I think the exposure would be beneficial.
Well, it's hard, right? Like we want to defend these individuals because we're like, well, people are just taking advantage of them. And quite possibly, unfortunately, that may be happening, right? But we're not going to get anywhere by being very accusatory and just saying, well, like, you're not doing anything for my child, right? But being able to go in and saying, like, look, we're partners in this. I believe you have the best state of mind for my child, and I do too. Let's work together to find a solution together. And that's going to be a better way of going about the conversation than just saying, like, you're wrong and this is what we need to do, that kind of thing, you know?
Yeah. Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for being here.
Mhm.
Okay, so the next question is, where do these sessions take place? Do you use RBTs in your practice? So this is all online and it's anonymous, so I don't know who said this. So this is all online where we would do just exactly what this is. It's more of a question answer type thing where it's not necessarily me saying like, oh, this is absolutely what you need to do and this is the best way of doing things. What I do personally, and every BCBA may be different, is I give several different evidence-based type strategies to you as that parent. And I say, this could work, this could work, this could work. It really depends on your child because it has to be individualized, right? If I go into the conversation and say, nope, absolutely 100%, this is what's going to fix this issue, then that's a big issue as well, because what if it doesn't, right? And at the same time, much like Charity here, I only have heard her story for, all of 5 minutes. Who's to say that what I'm saying is actually going to work 100%, right? I have to give that disclaimer, but keep in mind the things that I'm offering here are not just things off the top of my head. These are evidence-based strategies that you can find in psychological journals and medical journals and what have you. So I hope that helps the anonymous person understand what we do here. So although we don't have RBTs, it's not direct therapy. It is a lot, I guess you could consider it parent training, if you will. So what method do you use for potty training? Again, it really depends on the child and the age and the severity, right? So it may be where you take him every 20 minutes, every 15 minutes. Maybe you do a reinforcer because he hasn't been able to sit down yet. So without actually knowing an individual's perspective on potty training, as well as what they've already done, whatever they haven't done in those areas, then we just try to be very individualized. So if, again, I'll just use Charity because it was the last one I spoke to. If Charity comes and says, hey, I need help with potty training, this is what's happening, this is what I'm doing, what are your thoughts? Then I would give advice based on that in order to better support that individual in need. So again, anonymous person, I hope that helps. There was an anonymous attendee that provided that. Sarah Gutowski says, what if the child has additional issues, ODD and a genetic condition in addition to being on the spectrum? Sarah, I'm going to allow you to speak because I would like to learn more about what your question means. I just want to make sure I get it all. So if you would like to turn on your mic, you're more than welcome to. I'll give you a few minutes to get situated. If not, I'll try to answer the best I can. Okay, no worries. I'll keep going with you guys. So Sarah's question is, what if the child has additional issues? That's when, just like with Charity, with the person earlier as well, it's then you have to have a collaborative method with the doctors or speech therapists or occupational therapists. And no way is ABA ever considered a solo mission, right? Where we know all the answers and we just have to follow our kind of thing. So for instance, if a parent tells me that the child's stomach's been hurting recently and the child is starting to act up more, I'm not going to immediately say, oh, the child's just doing this to get attention, right? I may say, hey, let's go ahead and take the child to the doctor and get more medical opinions on this to make sure that what is happening is not a behavioral issue and it's more medical. And if the doctor comes back and says nothing's wrong medically, then I know that the issue is behavioral, and in which case it allows me to make a better opinion on what to do next. So I hope that makes sense, Sarah. And if it didn't, feel free to raise your hand. I'm happy to answer it more. Caleb, and again, you guys, it doesn't need to be just Q&As. If you want to raise your hand, I'm happy to answer those as well. And I'll call on you as we go. But I just appreciate everyone for being here and me answering these questions. If you stick around by the end, Jen is posting the link if you're interested in our services, and is a way that you can either sign up and do more question and answers that are individualized for your child. but it's also a way, if you stick around at the very end, we're going to give away a session with myself as well. So yeah, so it's good. I'm really glad you guys are joining me this week. Next week, I'm going to Egypt. So it was nice to be a part of this. And Michelle specifically wanted me to mention as well that, all things are possible despite the diagnosis, right? It's regardless of what you can be. I'm married. I just got married. It's going to be a year in September. And with that being said, a diagnosis isn't what stops a person from living their life. It's simply just an obstacle that we can definitely overcome so long as the support system is there. So Caleb Moss says, hi there. We've been having a hard time finding ABA, especially in-home services for our 3-year-old. Does your company offer services in Detroit, Michigan? If so, what is the current wait list? So there is no wait list for this program here. I don't know if you mean Michelle's or mine. Mine is specifically in Houston. So I'm really sorry for everyone else, but I'm specifically in Houston. But Michelle's, there is no wait list. Simply sign up tonight through the link that Jen is providing in the comments here, and we're able to start this program really immediately. So you have access to the vault, so you have access to the Facebook group, and really all of the weekly meetings as well. So I hope that helps. And Caleb, if you have more questions I'm not answering, please feel free to raise your hand and I'll call on you to talk more about it. So, but welcome from Detroit. This is one of my favorite things. Shauna K. Baxter is from Jamaica. And she says, in my son's case, he is potty trained, just need help with speech therapy. I am in Jamaica. So Shauna, I'm going to call on you now and let you speak and see if there's more ways that I can help you see what you need. How can I help you, Sarah? Or excuse me, Shauna.
Hi, good night. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, hi. So I have to say that my son's journey is my first child, right? And to have, I noticed some behaviors from before he was 1, bring him to the doctors and, get the diagnosis. The problem that we have currently in Jamaica is that there are more special needs kids and not a lot of specialists to actually help with these kids at the current moment. So in my situation now that I'm having is where his words are not fluent how it should be. He may say 1 or 2 words that you may hear, but it's not how I want it to be. His behavior has come under control in some aspect of that, which I'm grateful for. His grandma helped him with potty training, so I don't have that issue. I'm just having a general issue with getting him speech-wise.
Got it. So while you're waiting, we have that speech therapist here, right? So it is one of the weekly calls where you can speak with the speech therapist. I think it was weekly, where you can speak with that speech therapist, but you can also put it in the Facebook group, any questions you may have with speech, right? From a behavioral perspective, I would recommend you figuring out how many words your child can say appropriately to string along a sentence, and then afterwards determining, okay, if he can do 2, that's great. Well, that's not going to cut it anymore. If he wants to drink or eat an apple, for instance, then he needs to tell me, I want apple instead of want apple. And you want to reinforce what you're hoping to accomplish there. Does that make sense?
Yes, so he's not able to say 2 words together, I would say. Like, even if you hear the first word, you may not hear the second word.
Okay.
Correctly there. So I just need some, how would we put it, steps to how to start, what I can do to help him along that way. I generally just try to ask him if he wants something, and he may just say yes or shake his head that says he wants it. But in general, to come directly to me and say he wants something, even to just call it by the name, he doesn't do that. He may be able to point or touch me, and that's how I will know that he may need something.
Can he say any words other than yes?
Again, it depends on it, and it's not all the time, and it's not clearly said either.
Okay. So that will be where you start off, where if he, and I'll just give an example apple. It doesn't need to be apple. It's just what's on my mind. So if you're going to do apple, then he doesn't need to say the entire word apple. Maybe he just gets reinforced and you give him the apple when he says app and then apple. And, you know, you keep going that way and allowing him to get closer and closer to the completion of that word and get him to understand that there are steps needed before he's able to say or get the item that he's requesting. Does that make sense?
So just to understand, you're saying break up the word when I'm saying it to
You
him?
could.
That's what you're saying?
You could. Yeah,
Mhm.
you could. So if he's not even at a point where he can say a complete word, then the next step for you is to break down that word even further. So because he doesn't even have the idea. He doesn't have the idea of, I need to say the word to get the item I'm wanting. He's only at a point where he points and he gets the item he's wanting. So what you do instead is you show him the item he wants, he points to it, and you're like, nope, we need to say I for iPad. Or maybe he says iPad. And seeing where he is at, and then starting that as your base, and then moving forward from there.
But I can definitely try that moving forward. What I tend to do sometimes is because what I'm understanding when it comes on to children that are autistic, you have to speak to them, right? So I tend to speak to him, ensure that he's looking in my face directly when I'm speaking to him, so that just in case he needs to get the words, he's seeing my mouth moving towards that. And in that aspect, it has helped a bit there.
Yeah, that's one step, right? There are multiple ways that you can increase the language. That is one of them. But what I am suggesting is that you do multiple ways at the same time, because that is going to push the language further than if you were not doing that.
All right, so I must continue doing that step and then use also your step that you gave by telling him to call whatever he may need at that particular time, even if it's breaking up the word.
Yes, even if it's breaking up the words, or you don't do that and you teach him sign language and get him to give you the sign for the item that he is wanting, because at least that's more language than pointing.
Okay, currently he's 5. What we call out here is basically basic school. So he was starting that because they had a day that they did sign language. So I definitely speak to the principal in terms of seeing what we can do regarding the sign language in that aspect as well.
Yeah, because it's not even like it's not that you're teaching him sign language. You just want to give him enough words in sign language or in regular language, right? So that way he doesn't need to point or nod his head yes or no to get the items he's wanting. He can simply say in some form or fashion the item he's wanting, because that's going to make more sense to a stranger than it does you as the parent.
Right, I think I understand.
Yeah, you have to keep in mind, like, yes, you're the parent and you're going to see him, but you're going to understand him more than a stranger, but you're not going to be around him forever, right? He goes to school, and a person in school may not understand what he's wanting by pointing, right? It may not make sense in the scenario, but being able to say words or being able to do the sign for a word helps him in life and become more independent than having to rely on you to be his voice box.
Yes, I think I understand now.
Okay, is that helpful?
Of course, of course it is, because basically, if in my situation, as you said, that he goes to school, he may have to go somewhere with the school, it's a case where he should be able to either say a one word or do a language, and they understand. Even if I know what he's talking about, they may not know what he's talking about. So in that case, I totally understand.
Yep. So an example that is concerning, right, is he goes on a field trip, and and it's to a museum, a big building, and God forbid he gets lost, and he just goes around and points to things. That's not going to help him. But if he can say the word help, or if he can do the sign for help, that's going to give him more options of getting support than just pointing at things.
Understand. Can I ask another question as well?
Sure.
To help with this basis, do you think getting like cards with either food items, objects could help as well? Like even if to practice him to say it, but basically showing him and helping him saying it first could probably help in that situation.
Yeah, and you're going to want to pick something though. Like I wouldn't say do signs, do words, do pictures. Like that's really overwhelming. That's really like learning 3 languages at once, right? It's just you can't do that, right? So keeping it simple will be a good idea to start off with and then go from there.
Okay, which one do you suggest first? Because again, I said, with the sign language,
that's going to be up to you. So the reason why I say it's up to you is because every child, again, I'm very individualized here, right? It really depends on the child. Some children respond very quickly to the picture cards. Some don't. Some respond very quickly to signs and some don't. And some respond to words very quickly and some don't. So it really depends on where your child is at. You can try, one a day and see which one makes more sense to you. But I would recommend, whichever one is comfortable within your family.
All right, definitely will do so as well. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're interested, I'd love to talk to you more. Just feel free to join the class with us. Very, very cool.
Of course.
All right. So Andrea Waldron Zimmerman says, if my son is 3, will be 4 next month, and is already in ABA clinic, would this program still be beneficial? Absolutely. Yes, because I've had many patients now, or many clients here that are in ABA and then also do this, because there are sometimes that you don't understand what the ABA is doing, or there are sometimes that things may be confusing, and this helps out more and more because you're able to get more support than what you may get from an ABA clinic, because they're so busy with other patients that they may not be able to support a lot of the things that you have going on. So I hope that helps, Andrea. I'll do one more, and then David, you're next. So Valerie says, my son is 22. Will your program help my son? He is very aggressive, and we are using iPad for communication. Yes, we have done older adults and regular adults as well. And in order to better support these patients and these children and these adults, the aggression and the iPad is not the issue, right? The issue is then learning about the behaviors that come in mind to better support what we're trying to accomplish here. So yes, to answer your question, we can definitely help out a 22-year-old. That is not an issue. David, how can I help you? Nope, I'll give you a little bit to turn on your mic. There you go.
I was saying, why so hard for autism to get potty training?
I'm sorry, say again.
Oh, why so hard to get potty trained for people with autism?
Why is it so hard? Yeah. Why is it so hard? It really depends on the child and the learning aspect, right? So you think of like a regression of skills, regression being like you knowing something and then a week or 2 later you don't anymore. So it's the children that are really going against this brand new setting, this brand new procedure that is just out of this world to them. And it's very strange. And so a lot of the times, if something is new and strange and not typical, then it becomes very difficult for them and they need more support than usual. I hope that helps. Okay, I'm gonna move on. Thank you, David. Okay, back to the questions. Yashika says, oh, okay, the 4 reasons. Let me write them down for everybody. So the 4 reasons why people do everything is escape, attention, it feels good, or they want something. And everyone does that for all reasons, right? So the reason why you type that is because you wanted attention. The reason why I type that is because I wanted attention to let people know that. The reason why I go to a vending machine to get some candy, it's because I want something. So that's it as well. There we go. The anonymous attendee says, I have a question. My son is 5 years old. He's not speaking and has regressed a lot since attending daycare. He has been hitting his sides when he's mad or frustrated. What are some suggestions to stop it? I've tried redirecting, but that works 20% of the time. He understands what he is doing wrong, but still keeps hitting himself when he doesn't get his way with food or snacks or bedtime. What can I do to stop it from happening? So it really depends again on why this child is doing what they're doing. If they're doing it because they want attention, then redirecting is not going to be what needs to be done, right? So firstly, you'll have to determine what is the purpose of the hitting the sides, right? And once you can determine that, the next step is then going into, okay, what are my interventions to do it? If he's doing it to get out of things, the best thing you can do is to have him do the activity and then also redirecting his hand. So if he does an activity and doesn't hit his side, maybe you highly reinforce it and you give him praise, tickles, candy, whatever it is, to have him understand that he gets really good things when he does the activities you want him to, and he gets nothing and he is ignored when he does things that you don't want him to do. So I hope that makes sense. And none of the, oh wait, maybe a different one. Same one. And he will be attending school, ESCE, which I think is like early intervention class, Monday. So I'm hoping that he stops that habit. And they said he was being disruptive by not listening to them, running out of the classroom, thinking it's funny. What can I do about that? Honestly, there's not much you can do because it's not in your setting. It's not with you as the teacher or the adult. It seems in that scenario that you gave, it looks like it might be attention. And if it is attention, he's doing it to get their attention. And so if they run after him, that's going to give him more attention. That reinforces the idea that I can run to get the teacher's attention. So you obviously can't just let him run out of the classroom. But what you do instead is that you you position him in the classroom in a way where he's nowhere near the doors to leave the classroom, and therefore is not able to get that attention that he is seeking, and he will seek the attention elsewhere. So again, I hope that helps. So Ashley, you said, and he does get OT. Oh, did I miss something? No, I didn't. So all Ashley wrote right now is, and he does get OT speech and will be starting ABA therapy soon. I think your answer got cut off. So Ashley, I'm going to let you talk and ask your question.
Oh, hello.
Hi.
I was very typing to you. Yeah, so he's been like, I've noticed he wasn't doing anything like they say terrible. That's how they say it. Because like I think I spoke to you the last time y'all had this, and we did the redirection and the candy and all that. What happens is, I would say he's non-speaking. He is verbal, like he says like water, more in sign language. He knows how to communicate for food. But I've noticed like with them at the daycare, because it's an open space classroom, there's no doors or nothing. It's just like a regular classroom.
Yeah.
He'll run out and he'll laugh. And the teacher's like, well, mom, we can't. It kind of feels like discriminating kind of, because they're like, oh, well, mom, he's doing this and he's doing that. And it's always something, you know, like if a kid's picking on him, it's always my son's fault. And they have another little boy in there that he has autism too, but he's like, I think like 8 or so. And they try to compare my son and him. And I'm like, and I tell them, just because my son has autism, you know, it's not going to be the same thing. Like maybe he's, I guess you call it a different, like, they say like the levels or something like that. So it might be different, you know? And I try to explain to them that when he was at the classroom, he's laughing, it's to get your attention, because he knows like, oh, this is how I get your attention. Okay, I'm gonna keep doing it. So that's becoming a problem. And then when they bring him back, like they bring him back, but it kind of looks like in a mean way, like you're gonna sit here and you're gonna stay, you know. And I try to explain to them like, you don't have to do that. You just tell him nicely, because he understands when you say no, we're gonna sit here, and he'll sit down and, you know, he'll behave. But they're saying he's being very like, well, I forgot the word. It was being like saying like he's being terrible like that. Like, oh mom, he's being terrible. He's being disruptive. He's being, you know, this and that. He doesn't want to listen. He's just being defiant, and he don't want to listen to us. And I'm afraid when he starts school on Monday, because he's gonna have the same teacher, I'm afraid they're gonna call me and say like, hey mom, he's getting on the trash can. Hey mom, he's doing this. Hey mom, you need to pick him up because, you know, he's acting out. And there's not much I can do, like you say, because he's in the classroom, and me picking him up, he's still gonna do it the next day. And that's what I've noticed. And I tried to help them like, hey, well, I'll leave and I'll go pick him up. But then he hits himself, and he's hitting himself like, if you put your arm up like in a fist and then you go down like that with your elbow. So he hits his like right here, like where the pull-up goes, he'll hit himself right there. And I'll tell him like, hey, you don't do that. Like, you know, you're hurting yourself. And I try to explain to him, because I know he understands like what I'm telling him, you know. And I'm just trying to stop that, because I'm like, okay, they're gonna be like, well, mom, he keeps hitting himself and this and that. And it's just been a whole problem since he's been going to that daycare for the summer. So
Yeah. Ashley, you said you've done this before with us. Are you gonna sign up tonight, or because I think you would really benefit from it?
I want to. I just don't have the funds right now. I don't get paid until Friday, actually.
Got it. Okay. I think you'll get the most out of this if you do join up for this kind of thing, because it seems like there's a lot going on. In the meantime, what is significant as well is understanding that it seems like there's a lack of understanding of what autism is at your school. So it would be best to form an ARD committee or having some kind of advocate go into the IEP meeting with you to really better support your child at this time.
At the daycare, right? Because at the school, he gets on those IEPs, and they give me that, and they'll tell me like how he's doing. But the daycare, they say they're not trained to handle special needs kids, basically, is what they tell me.
And that's appropriate. They're a private our daycare is private, and so they may not have the education to handle kids with autism. You may need to find a different place that is trained, because otherwise it's not going to work in that aspect. I'm happy to help them learn about behavior, but a lot of times daycares would not have that issue in the first place.
Yeah, and their thing is they've been telling me like, one director is fine, like she understands, because I did, you know, have a 30-minute talk with her. We communicated, you know, we argued, I was mad, I explained to her, you know, how my son is, and she was like, no mom, I know, like he understands. But she's basically saying like, he's smarter than what he lets you lead on. Like she's basically telling me like, well, he's not dumb, mom, like he understands. And I'm like, yeah, but he doesn't understand everything you're telling him, because y'all talk to them like they're teenagers. They're not teenagers. He's 5 years old. You know, you have to explain to him in an appropriate manner. And the other director, she'll tell me like, well, I just think he'll be better in the ABA school, because they're trained for him, and it's better. Like, just take him out of here and put him there. Like, that's gonna solve the problem. So we're kind of just in the middle of like, okay, well, he's gonna start school Monday. He's gonna be out of your hair. Like, you know, once he starts school, hopefully he'll be better. But we've just been like all summer long, just been struggling with him and picking him up early, because they say he's being defiant in the class. So
yeah. It's going to be significant for you to find a different daycare, it seems. Especially if he's just going to school, it may be better to handle more in the school than it is everywhere else.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm thinking of doing. Probably just have him at the school and just pick him up, and just like not have him at the daycare no more, because that's just been a huge like regression. like the behavioral problems, all that started in summer this year when he started going, and they had like less teachers and less help, and they couldn't really like pay attention to him, you know, because he's still in the pull-ups too. And so they're always like, Mom, we can't just leave our classroom of like 20 kids and change him. But to me, I'm like, yeah, but that's unreasonable. Why do you have only one person and 26 kids? And then you have my kid in there that needs more attention, you know, more need seeking. And it's just been terrible.
Yeah. So I think that'll help you. So, you know, best of luck with it, and hopefully everything can work out for you as well.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. All right, we'll keep on going. So, there we go. Amber Nance, my son is 5 years old, and his only language is to request. He requests food mostly in one word, for example, cookies and juice. He says minimally 2-word phrases such as take bath. Do you have any tips for getting him more conversation? Yes. So depending on where he's at, it sounds like he's mostly at 1-word answers. Then you're going to want to get him to start understanding that he is not going to get the items that he wants until he starts doing 2 words. Now, 2 words doesn't mean take bath. That is fine. That is appropriate. But it can also mean want cookie, want juice. So it's really just taking that step forward one more, right? So you just say, hey, that's not going to cut it anymore. Now you need to say want juice if you want juice. You give him 3 chances. And if he says, you know, if he's all done, then he moves on and you can move on. You don't want to frustrate him. You just want him to start understanding that the expectation is higher, much like you do when you go through grade school, right? You don't do 2 + 2 forever. As you get older, the expectations for what you can do in math are growing. And same concept here is that the expectations for language grows as that child grows as well. So, Amber, I hope that helps you. And that would be the best way of providing that kind of support. The anonymous attendee says, Hemi feels my child, that can't be right. Hemi feel my child would be better suited in a therapeutic school as she ND life skills, and she responds well to music therapy. Maybe she just likes life skills. She is also in the special ed caution class in public school. How can I get them to transfer? That's going to be, if I understand this correctly, that's going to be a option that is spoken to during the ARD meeting for you in the special education class. And definitely something that you can review with them to really better support the needs that you have. Ashley Kerr, my son is 5. He will pee in the potty but won't poop. The thing is, he will not ask to use the potty, but if he knows where it is, he will go. What form of contact would be best to teach him to get to communicate that he needs to go? One of the good things that you could do is probably take him to the bathroom and start fading out your prompts that are required for him to go to the bathroom. So you can like take him to the front of the bathroom and say like, what do you need? And see if he'll say, you know, I want potty, or if he just says potty. And then eventually fade yourself out where you take him to the front of the bathroom and then just see what he does and just stand there and see if he'll say potty. Be like, good job, that is saying potty. Go ahead and go. And getting him to go. And then you start fading yourself out more and more until he's able to do it spontaneously. And that's one option to do it. So Ashley, I hope that helps with that as well. Ashley, we did already speak. And if it didn't, keep your hand up. I just want to make sure. Sorry, I'm wanting to make sure I go through the questions, but I hope this is helpful for everyone. Once my son goes through his aggression, Valerie says he is very sorry afterwards and starts to clean and straighten things. My question is, does he have to get it out of his system? I don't necessarily say that he has to get anything out of his system, but he does have to learn how to handle his behaviors appropriately. Obviously, aggression is not an appropriate way of doing that. That can eventually turn into an abusive way of handling things, right? So what you do is you want to teach him an alternative to aggression. So maybe he doesn't do aggression, and maybe instead what he does is that he takes a walk around his house, or maybe he takes a moment to himself on his bed, things like that, and having him address it himself personally rather than it exploding and turning into aggression. So I hope that makes sense. I see that Ashley still has her hand up. So Ashley, how can I help you? Was that not helpful, what I said earlier?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. We didn't speak earlier. That was another Ashley.
Yes, but did you hear me say Ashley Kerr earlier with your comment?
Oh, yes, no. I guess I wanted to get more deeper into it, but what you said was definitely helpful. So my son, he's 5, like I said. If I ask him, if I say, where do you pee? Where do you poop? He'll say in the potty. Or if I say, I mean, like that. But say we're outside, say we're at Chuck E. Cheese, we're at the zoo. He won't tell me, oh, mom, I have to potty. Or if he's at daycare, he won't tell the instructors that he has to potty. If they bring him to the potty and he happens to have to use it at that moment, he will. But if he has to use it and nobody asks him, hey, Avon, do you have to go potty? He'll go on himself. So I guess I'm trying to figure out, yeah.
Are there any signs that he does before he goes potty? Like any kind of like wiggling or anything like that?
No wiggling. I guess the only sign would be he kind of goes off by himself.
Okay. When you start to see that, that's when I would prompt him to do it. But also, if the issue is that he just doesn't know where the toilet is, then it may be beneficial to show him when you go to somewhere where the toilet is before you start about your day.
Okay.
And that would be a good first step, right? And then eventually you can make it a thing where you'd be like, hey, where's the potty? And when he doesn't know, he can look for it and understand, okay, this is where I go. And then you start to reinforce him when he spontaneously goes on his own, where he's able to like walk off without you. And you're like, oh, hey, do you need to go potty? And he does. Then you can praise him for that because he knew that he needed to go without you having to tell him.
That might work. Thank you. That sounds good.
Of course, glad I could help. So we have Valerie. No, I did that one already. Valerie Hughes. I hope that helps you. And then, we have like more questions. Goodness gracious. My son, John says, my son screams a lot and hits when he's aggravated. What can I do to stop that behavior? It's important for you to determine why he's doing what he's doing, right? So look at what I said earlier. Is it for escape, attention, it feels good, or they want something? And if you can determine that, that'll be your first step to determine what do you do afterwards, right? What kind of strategies are necessary? Again, it's very individualized depending on whatever your child is doing. If you have questions like these are all great questions. Jen is posting in the comments here a link to set it up. Remember, you get 5 months of these kind of question and answer moments if you sign up tonight by midnight, and Jen will be posting that comment there. So I hope this is helpful, John. iPhone says, how do we look for an advocate? Honestly, you could Google. I think that could be one of the best options for you as well to respond there. So, okay, so now we have our raising hands. And David, I'll let you talk again. Did you still have a question for me?
I got out from under the camera because I wanted to do it.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
My question was, okay, how to get support in the event of a household change and thing for a person with autism, for example, like a household change.
A good option would be to join our program.
Yes.
That you can join that, and we'll be able to see you more.
To the principles of Bangladesh, and then wait a day and then come back. This campaign is called Taboo.
Okay. Trina, how can I help you?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, first of all, I wanted to say thank you for this session. This is the first Zoom session that I've been to, and I am getting a lot of good information just by listening to the answers to the questions. So thank you a lot for that. Can you hear me?
Yeah, what's your question?
Okay, my question is, my son is completely nonverbal. He's 5 years old. He just turned 5 yesterday. And he hasn't said a word. And so this is kind of just like an expansion on the previous questions about how to get your child talking. Most children seems like that they at least know 1 or 2 words. So I was just wondering, like, what can I do? What is one of the first steps that I can do to kind of get him to even saying the syllables? Like, as for the example you use, like apple,
Yeah.
he's not saying anything. So
Yeah.
what do you suggest that I do for that?
Where is he at? Is he pushing, pulling you, or is he pointing at things?
Well, he doesn't point. He's pulling me. He's taking my hand and taking me to where he wants to go or things like that.
So if he is 5 already, I would focus less on verbal language for now. The key is for now, and focus on sign language and getting him signs. So my turn, go, more, eat. Those are going to be beneficial because at least he has some language where he doesn't have anything right now.
Right. Okay.
Start there. And then when you handle on the signs, then you can move into, let's see if you can talk.
Okay.
Make sense?
That sounds good. Yes, that makes a lot of sense.
Very cool.
I have another question too, if you don't mind.
Oh, really quick. You're going to want to make up scenarios for him. So if he's trying to go and play with something, you can take the item away and make him say my turn and then immediately give it to him. Or you can stand in his way. If he's trying to go to the living room, you stand in his way and you make him say go, and then you go to the living room.
I got you. I understand completely.
Cool. All right. What's your question?
Oh, the second question is about potty training. Sure. Now he's not potty trained yet. I tried a few things, off and on, but when I see he's not ready, I just kind of like let it go a little bit. But I think since he just turned 5, I want to try to start it again. And I heard the answer to a previous question about taking him to the bathroom every 15 to 20 minutes.
Sure.
Okay. Now, should I do that if he is, if it hurts for him to go? Do you think I should start potty training or just hold off a little bit?
If it hurts, it's a medical thing.
Right.
So I would take him to the doctor and get their opinion.
Right. He has gone to the doctor. He's they give him laxatives and all that. But should I wait for the potty training process, or
what did the doctor say about the pain?
Well, the pain is coming from the fact that he's constipated.
Oh, I see. So I guess no, you keep going. If you ask the doctor and they said that you could keep going, then you can. It's gonna be really then up to the doctor at that point to tell you whether or not you should or should not do potty training. This is what I was talking about earlier, is that I can decide things, right? But at some point, my opinion does not matter, and the doctor's opinion matters more than mine.
Yes.
And that's one of those times.
Yes.
Yeah. But if the doctor says everything's good, then you can keep doing potty training.
Okay. And you said take him a 15, 20 minutes intervals throughout the day? Is it for a certain amount of?
Sorry?
You said, is it for a certain amount of hours or is it just throughout the day?
Throughout the day. Like it's gonna, so what you do realistically is you take your child every 15 to 20 minutes and you track the data. And so if you have more accidents than you do successes, then he's not ready to move up in time. But if you have more successes than accidents, then he can move up in time. Ideally, you would like 0 accidents. So sometimes I wait to move up the child until they're at 0 accidents at a certain time period.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, glad I could help.
Yes.
All right, Kristen, how can I help you?
Yes, hi. I fortunately joined a little bit later, but I am appreciating everything you shared. I've gone through that. My son just turned 8 a couple weeks ago. He was never truly nonverbal, but it's the consistency of speech. So he would have behaviors where he was just so hyperactive. He was just running around doing his own thing. And I might be like, hey, Ian, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm not doing anything. What are you doing? And he was 2 years old and said that to me. So I'm like, oh, he can talk. But then when he goes to school or he's in speech or OT, he doesn't say too much. And so I'm like, how do I help you? He feels comfortable around me and he trusts me. And we did get ABA. He was doing well, progressing and everything. But with the pandemic, the school did not allow the ABA team to come in to help him transition. So he started regressing because he wasn't comfortable. They didn't believe that he could, it was similar to the other parent, he could do more than what he was showing. And so they felt that he had cognitive deficits when he really doesn't. He has no receptive, hardly any receptive language deficits. It's more so from expressive language, him trying to get the words out. And I did train him to, like, just like you said, food was a motivating factor. So I would start with the syllable ja, and we progressed to juice. Juice, please. I want juice. And he did that. And he would do that for me all the time, but he wouldn't do it in therapy or other places. So when I say he can talk, no, the therapists don't believe me. And so now I'm trying to figure out what to do because he's had this regression and he doesn't feel comfortable because he was, what the other parents went through. His was even worse. He was traumatized and abused and like isolated from other kids when he actually likes being around kids. And he would have picked up those socialization skills and peer skills that he needed. But because he was isolated, it's like he went back in time to a place where he never was. And now he's still comfortable at home with me, but like at ABA, they did a recent assessment and they had him like at a level of 1 year old. When with me, if I push him, like you said, where it's encouraging, he'll still at least express himself, whether he has an AAC device, his or sign, or he'll say part of a word. So if it's popsicle, he may just say pop instead of sickle, but I accept it. But it's like he used to say the whole word before and imitate me. So it's a couple different things. So I'm a little frustrated because I thought ABA has been helpful, but it's not right now. And I'm kind of stuck because they don't believe me and they don't want to help him. But it's like, I don't want to take him out because he's so used to them, so then it'd be another change that will further upset him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, maintaining your belief. So it's not that he isn't able to talk, it's the setting that seems to be the issue. So he may be able to do it with you, but he may not be able to do it with others. And it's then a generalization concern. So rather than saying to the therapist, oh, he can talk to them about saying, oh, it's a generalization issue. How do I help generalization with his ability to speak?
Okay, it's definitely the language. I see what you're saying, because they're just like, and they have him, like with him being 8, I want to get him back in school again just so he can I may have to homeschool him, but it's like they're having him do not even preschool things. It's like infant or 1-year-old things. And I'm like, he would be frustrated with that. And I think that's why he's having elevated behaviors too, just like all the other parents mentioned. And they tell me there's no antecedent for it. But I said, well, if there's not, he's probably bored with the programming or the task that you've given him. Like he feels like, I can do this. I don't want to do this 100 times a day, but he doesn't know how to say it to him. So is that too.
The language aspect. So if you can, again, I said it earlier and you may have missed it, where it's like, you don't want to be combative, but it's more about like, we're on the same team here. How can we support one another?
Right. Okay, I will try that approach, and I appreciate you for sharing that. I'm not going to give up, and you've been a great testimony of that. I believe Ian he'll be one day doing that too, helping other kids, to share what I've been through. Yeah.
I know, I love doing this stuff. It's such a joy. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. All right.
Okay, Jennifer, how can I help you? Did it work? Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So basically, my son, actually today's his birthday. He just turned 4. Now I haven't gotten a diagnosis for autism, but I'm seeing different signs. You know, it could be a mild. I don't know because I'm not a professional. But some of the things that the parents were saying, I'm seeing some of those signs. He's saying one word. He scripts a lot. Like he likes Paw Patrol, the cartoon, and he knows all the characters' names. He knows everything. Like he'll talk like the characters actually with him, and he says like, "Let's go, Marshall! Come on, what are you doing?" Like he talks like he has an imaginary friend. He does that sometimes. And my question is, how do I get him to communicate more with me? Like sometimes, if someone says like hi, he won't reply back like hello. He'll just stare at them sometimes. Or if they say like what's your name, he won't say his name. That's some of the things. But other than that, he says one word like juice. If I won't get the juice for him, he'll go in the refrigerator and grab it himself and bring it to me to tell me that, this is what I want, but like sentences, he's not saying sentences. So now he's just in a program for speech, and I just got him in a program for speech at the public school. And I just started occupational therapy, which is right now they only have available 1 day a week because they're packed.
Yes. So
yes.
It's got
so
on more contrived opportunities that allow him to use his language. So if you can give him opportunities to speak and practice that, it's a lot like a muscle. The more opportunities he has, the better it's going to be for him to learn how to speak.
Okay. And do you think a group session would be better for him or individual when it comes to speech? Because at the school, it's a group session.
Yeah, that's going to depend on the speech therapist. Me personally, as a BCBA, we do a lot of one-to-one type of settings. So I would say individual, but again, that's pretty biased just because that's what we're used to.
Okay.
Yeah, hope that helps.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
Okay, Nicole, how can I help you? Oh, did I do it right? Okay, good. Give you a little bit time. Okay, we'll move on. And, where'd you go? Okay, and disabled. Okay, I think this will be our last question, Jen. I'm all caught up. So Rachel Mark says, what do you think about functional medicine? My grandson was diagnosed with autism in April. We have been devastated since. There are currently no ABA therapists who are in network with the state of Illinois. He doesn't play with toys and is nonverbal, and he just turned 4. Any tips? Also, what are your tips on special diets they say for kids with autism? Rachel, this is a very impactful question. I'm glad we're ending here. Diets for autism are not evidence-based, and in fact can sometimes do more harm than good, depending on what kind of diet that child is put on. There is no diet that can better support a child with autism. There is a diet that can support overall nutrition, and that's something that our nutritionist here speaks about. And it's because of the fact that nutrition in general helps all of us be successful, right? Having the correct protein, fat, carb content allows us to be more supported in that way. When it comes to playing with toys and him being nonverbal, it's going to be giving him more and more contrived opportunities that allow him to complete those kind of activities, right? So if he's not playing with toys, giving him more options to complete these toys, giving him more options to interact with these toys. And it can even be more of a reinforcement thing. Hey, if you play with this kind of toy for a little bit, then I'll go ahead and give you this next item, this next Skittle or whatever it is, right? Doing those kind of things can be very helpful for him. So that can be very significant. And then lastly, yeah, there are no ABA therapists in Illinois. I would recommend, maybe looking at private insurance, unfortunately. I don't know Illinois as much, but it could be very helpful to look into that kind of thing. So I hope that helps you, Rachel. I know those were several questions. So with that being said, Jen, I think we're ready to go. If you would like to spin the wheel, we can go from there. Ooh, Marilyn, you got a free session. Very cool, you guys. Thank you again for each of you that joined us tonight. I really appreciate the follows. I really appreciate you guys joining. Again, Jen has the link. If you join tonight before midnight, we will be offering 5 months of our trainings, as well as weekly calls, monthly calls, and there's also a free private session involved in it as well. So please feel free to click that link that Jen has pressed again. Thank you all for joining tonight, and we will be talking